Hello everyone and welcome to another most interesting game from the Croatian Grand Chess Tour being played in Zagreb. It's round 3, Shakhriyar Mamedyarov versus Jan Nepomniachtchi, and it's it's really a crazy game, but we're used to that when Nepo is playing. And I'm sorry I don't have any photos. I only get the photos on the next day, so we're gonna enjoy them tomorrow on a separate video. So without further ado, let's just check out the game. It's a really exciting one, so let's go. Mamedyarov has the white pieces and he opens with d4. We have knight to f6, c4, g6, and knight to f3 now. We have bishop to g7 and just e3. We have castles by Nepo and now bishop to e2. We have d6 preparing e5 and now knight to c3, just developing pieces. Knight bd7, the main idea in this line, and Mamedyarov castles here with e5 by Nepo and here b3. Preparing to fianchetto the dark square bishop with rook to e8, and here there are a lot of games have reached this position. Bishop to b2 is the main move in this position, but here Mamedyarov plays h3. It's not a new move, but it's been played only once before, and the reply to h3 was c6. But here Nepo goes e4, as Mamedyarov did not reply to this challenge in the center. Nepo plays a new move. So already as of move 9, a completely new position and a completely new game. So let's see how Mamedyarov fares in this newly found position, as he's the one that played the very rare line h3. So knight back to d2, pressuring the e4 pawn, and now comes h5. With b4, Mamedyarov grabs more space on the queen side, and knight to f8. This knight is now going to h7, and Nepo's plan is to move this knight, get this queen somehow to g5, as all of white's pawns are now on dark squares, so you will not be able to oppose the queen with a dark square bishop, and also you cannot use the f3 square for your knight. And then some nice tactics with bishop captures on h3 will be possible. With rook to e1 by Mamedyarov, and now bishop to f5, a nice developing move. Bishop to b2, and now queen to d7. And there aren't any threats of bishop captures here. Bishop f1 is a very strong defensive piece, so not a problem there. And here, Mamedyarov could continue playing on the queen side with something like a4, but here he chooses knight to d5. He wants to open up the c file and make the c7 pawn a weak pawn. Nepo says, no problem, we have knight captures, c captures, and now just queen to e7. Continuing with his plan, the queen will now successfully get to g5. And here, rook to c1, putting pressure on the c7 pawn. The c7 pawn is now a weak backwards pawn, and of course Mamedyarov wants to capitalize on that. Knight to h7, now also the knight will be able to join the game, either via knight to g5 or maybe knight to f6, and then who knows where the knight might go from there. We have queen to c2, now preparing to capture on c7, and here Nepo says, you just go ahead, I'm just gonna play queen to g5. And now it's already dangerous, the queen and bishop in front of Mamedyarov's king. The basic threat, bishop captures on h3, is on the board, and here you want to play king to h1. It seems like such a natural move, just get the king out of the way. You don't want to allow bishop captures on h3, and then if queen h4, you simply repeat king g1 and continue playing the game. But here, to everyone's amazement, Mamedyarov did not react to this threat. He instead captured on c7. So okay, you grab a pawn on the king side when Nepo has the black pieces for the price of one pawn. Well, Mamedyarov does, and he allows bishop captures on h3. So now queen to g2 will be checkmate if Mamedyarov does not prevent it. Of course, he prevents it with bishop to f1, you know, just everything is cool. And now bishop to f8. Now, Nepo wants to bring this bishop also into the attack, and he has some ideas how he can wiggle it in via the king side, and maybe if this pawn moves, he can also maybe use it as an attacking piece, which you'll see later. With queen captures on b7, grabbing yet another pawn, but not only grabbing a pawn, also creating an escape route for the queen, as well, the king side is about to get attacked, so we want to play queen to a6, and basically the idea is that if this bishop is sacrificed here, then you will be able to push your pawn and then attack the bishop. So the queen will be able to retreat to f1. It's not the greatest square for the queen, but you've grabbed some pawns, now you want to go back and defend. with knight to f6 by Nepo, and now queen to a6, preparing to go to f1 if this ever happens. But Nepo doesn't like this, so he could play h4 and then sacrifice here like we said and then push h3, but Nepo doesn't want to allow the queen to retreat, so first he pushes the queen back, queen to c8, sorry, bishop to c8. Now the bishop cannot retreat to f1 as the bishop occupies that square, so first queen to a4, but now Nepo attacks it again with bishop to d7 and now queen to d1, so Mamedyarov brings the queen back to the starting square. From there the queen will be able to help out with the defense, and now bishop to g4. So now if you just move the queen to some square, let's say a4 back, which doesn't really make sense, then this bishop has come from h3 to g4 without losing any time, because every move was made with an attack on the queen. So here you could play something like bishop to e2, but then you get bishop to h3, and after bishop to f1 again, defending mate, now h4 is coming, and now again this becomes a threat, and the queen is not ready to take the bishop's place on f1. So after bishop g4, Mamedyarov played f3, attacking the bishop, and here we have e captures on f3. Knight captures with an attack on the queen, and queen to h6 now. So what did Mamedyarov get for the price of this one pawn? Well, he's under attack, his structure in front of the king is all messed up. He does have a strong central mass here, but it's hard to say if you will be able to use it if you get checkmated. So here you want to play something like queen to d2, keep an eye on the e3 pawn, and well, keep the queen close to help out with the defense. But here after queen to b3 it becomes a forcing line. After bishop captures on f3, g captures, queen g5 check, and after you block bishop to g2, now you play bishop to h6, and now you get this triple threat against the e3 pawn. After the pawn moves, now you play g3, or otherwise white would just lose a pawn, and now this bishop finally finds its way into the attack via bishop to f4, and then it's gonna be really ugly for the white king. But Nepo plays a different line. After queen b3 he goes h4 first, doesn't really care about any forcing lines, he just wants to play h3. And here Mamedyarov, without any ideas, his position is just bad. Like Giri against Carlsen in round 1, he's getting slaughtered on the h-file, and here he plays knight to e5. He tries to give up a piece for some initiative, and if pawn captures, then you get this very nice central structure here, but still after knight e4 it's gonna be very hard to play this with white, even with such a nice pawn center. But Nepo says, I don't care, like the honey badger, and he just pushes h3. He just continues his attack. He says, I'm not interested in your knight here. If you want, you can capture my bishop on g4. Mamedyarov goes for it, as Nepo did not accept the piece sacrifice with knight captures, and now g captures on h3, pushing the knight back, but now knight captures on e3. And here, what do? Your king side is completely busted. If you count the pawns, Mamedyarov is still up a pawn, but who would you rather play in this position? I don't think we even need to ask this question. This bishop is doing nothing for the entire game, as it's been blocked by its own pawns on dark squares for the entire game. So not doing all that much, and it's very hard to activate the rooks. Here, rook to c3 is played. Now, okay, if the knight moves, then the bishop and queen are controlling the entire third rank, so that is good for white. But with knight to f5 by Nepo, he offers a trade of rooks, which Mamedyarov declines. He doesn't want to allow the other rook to get activated, so he plays rook to d1, but now we have queen to h5, just threatening, not threatening, but pressuring the rook here if the queen moves. And also, what do you play here with white? Here, Mamedyarov played rook to f3, and here Nepo just played bishop to h6, and it was in this position that Shakhriyar Mamedyarov resigned the game, as there is nothing to do here. It seems like there is something to do here, but there isn't. Whatever you play, you just lose the game terribly. For example, if you try bishop g2, I mean, you have to make a move, and there aren't all that many great moves. If you play bishop to g2, then you just allow a nice infiltration by the rook after rook to e2. And now, whatever you do, let's say bishop c1, you get do something. Bishop captures, rook captures, and now queen g5 is the threat of checkmate, and also you will lose the rook on c1. So not the greatest way to go, but again, there are no good ways to go here. If you try rook d3 to bring another rook on the third rank, then you get infiltrated on the first rank, rook e1. And after queen to c2, bringing the queen into the game, now you get knight to e3, with an attack on the queen and a double attack against the bishop here, and there is no good square for the queen. For example, if you try queen d2, or well, you can't go to the bottom rank. If you go here, then you just get a rook captures on f1, and after rook captures, knight will capture, you have a discovered attack on the queen, a double attack on the queen at that. You just have to move the queen, you're down a piece and completely busted. So, some perhaps queen d3 move, I don't know, I'm just making moves here, not to allow the rook to infiltrate either via rook e2 or rook e1, still isn't all that great because bishop to e3 check. And now you either have to give up material, or if you move the king, you're getting checkmated. Queen g5 check, king h1, and queen to g1 is mate. So although it seems like there's something to do here, there really isn't. Of course, Mamedyarov knows that. And even though he has 47 minutes on the clock, he resigned the game rightfully. And Nepo takes the lead in the tournament. Well, not takes, he's been in the lead since the beginning, as this is his third win in a row. And interestingly, out of those 3 wins, 2 are with the black pieces. So it's going to be a really intense struggle if Magnus intends to win yet another tournament this year, because he faces Nepo in round 7, and Carlsen will have the black pieces in that matchup, and it's always interesting between the two of them. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Thomas Enrique Pesos Pinto and Eric Ellert for their contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, most likely continuing the coverage of the Croatian Grand Chess Tour, as there are so many, well, brutal games being played here. Thank you all, I will see you soon. Have an excellent rest of your day.